Have I ever told you the story of when I converted an entire hospital system to my product and completely covered my entire quota for the whole year plus hyper commissions?
Oh my gosh, Cindy, that is landing the big whale. And we all dream of landing the big whale, don't we? And if you're tuning into this episode right now, you too either want to land another big whale or maybe you want to land your first whale. So tune in as we give you guys all the tips and tricks of landing that massive whale. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Secrets in Medical Device Sales brought to you by the Girls of Grit. And today we have a really fantastic episode coming at you guys because this is something that I think every single person and every single sales position wants to do. Right, Cindy?
Oh my gosh, you are so right. And you know what's so fun about episodes like this is I think that everybody listening, and you don't even have to be in medical device sales to relate to what we're talking about today, because today's episode really focuses on something very big. Okay, so I use the word big because we're talking about landing a whale. Okay, so you're going to think of a very large whale. You're going to think of something big. And have you all heard of the expression landing a whale?
Yeah.
And actually, Lisa, you and I were talking before. Why don't you share with our listeners when you were talking about where actually landing a whale came from?
Well, I mean, I've only ever known it as like Vegas, right? A whale is a very high spender, like a big time gambler that comes in. We're talking like millions of dollars probably now. Back in the day, it was like hundreds of thousands. Now it's millions of dollars that these people will gamble at one fell swoop of a time, right? They'll walk in, they'll put a couple million down, and then they're the high rollers, but they're the high rollers. And casinos will actually vie for their business. So they'll compete against one another for their business. So you got MGM on one side, and then you got, I don't know, like Steve Wynn on the other side. And these two hotel type chains are looking to win that whale. And so why do they want it? Because of the millions of dollars that these people will spend, but both winning and losing, but also like they eat there, they shop there, they go to shows there, they bring their friends there, they do the spa there. Lots and lots of money that comes into these casinos. And so every casino wants to have a big whale or 10. And as a sales rep, who doesn't want that whale of a surgeon or a hospital to come in and just be your guy, right? Be your gal. You just win them over and all of a sudden you've got all this business. But getting a whale, Cindy, just like you were talking about, like who actually can catch one, it is not easy. And our secret today, you guys, is not an easy one. But if you can master this, you will get yourself a whale.
Well, then let's just reveal our secret before we get into everything so you can be in the right mind frame. As Lisa said, landing a whale, no easy feat for just the logistical part of picturing landing a whale. So if you're in a boat and you've got a fishing rod and you're actually going to try to wheel in a rail, this is not going to be easy, right? And then you look at all the steps it takes in casinos. You've got work to do. It's effort, it's time. And landing that whale is going to take our secret, which is patience. Oh boy. Tell medical device salespeople to have patience. That's like very, very difficult. Like put the handcuffs on them right now, right? This is hard. You know, Lisa, when you were giving your example of the casino, there's something else about a whale. And I think of advertising. I think of commercials. Like everybody knows Coca-Cola. Everybody knows like if a president were to come in, everybody would know maybe a famous celebrity. And so it's not even so much so the money and everything that comes with it that goes to them. But if you relate this, if you parallel a whale in a casino to a whale in medical device sales, think about celebrity status of a whale is like a very successful surgeon, a very successful hospital system, a very successful somebody big that whatever area of your specialty is, everybody knows. And so the whale, if you look at an ocean, everybody can see a whale. Everybody knows who the whale is. So in your business, how do you become a partner with this whale? How do you land this whale to be able to, in return, have the financial, what's the word I'm looking for, ROI that a casino would have on, it's your success.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to landing a whale. Sometimes it seems tremendous. So how do we do this?
Well, I was going to say it's actually kind of an art, to be honest with you. You don't have to be a seasoned rep. You could totally land a whale as a brand new rep in a company. It's all about the way that you go about it. It's very strategic. It cannot be this very salesy, pushy, I want you, I want your business, I'm here for you. Let me call you 10 times a day, doctor, until you finally give in. You're never going to get a whale when you lead with that. You cannot lead with pushy, all the time in their face. You have to be patient. You have to be strategic. I mean, I think it's an art. You know, in medical device sales, we call these people key opinion leaders, and they're key opinion leaders for a reason.
Yes.
They are on the podiums, they are writing the papers. They may just be a big community doc that garners 80% of the business that you are working in, that industry that you're in. But that's what they look like, right? Or like you were saying, Cindy, some of this can be a hospital. It can be an IDN, depending on where you are. If you're a distributor and you're able to get that business from that system, then good Lord, you could have 5 or 6 or 10 hospitals in that system. And that in and of itself is a whale. I love that we're talking about this today because, again, who doesn't want a whale in their territory? I know I sure do. And you have a good story, Cindy, that I think you should share with everybody because this kind of explains exactly what it looks like to land that whale.
Yeah. So years back in a previous job that I had, I'm sure many of you are familiar with IDNs, the independent networks that where hospital systems will have multiple facilities in which you work. Many times, like one system could have 2 hospitals, it could be 10, 15, 20. This particular one was very large. It was 10 plus. And I entered into my role, and my competitor had the business for over 20 years. And I remember I first started, I'm excited, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could get business here and there, and realize, well, wait a minute. The only way I get businesses at one is if I get business at all 10 plus. So this was a work in progress, hence our secret patience. You know, the interesting thing is it's almost like detective work, and you're constantly trying to find different ways, who knows what. It's going through these motions and steps. But first of all, I had to tell myself, can I do this? Right? It never dawned on me that I was not even going to try. I know that the competitor had it for 20 years. Well, they hired me into this role, right? So now I guess it's my job to go after this competitor. And what that looked like, I didn't know. I just had to start uncovering little steps, but I believed I could do it. So, okay, I'm going to have patience, clearly. Ultimately, and this kind of goes into some of the things we'll talk about, but there were multiple steps. And I think something that I learned with tackling this tremendous whale is that it took tremendous patience. And it was a very long sail. And I think we all need to understand that when you set out for something like this, it was years in the making. I will give a little teaser that 4 years later, I actually did convert the entire system for the first time in 20 plus years. Wow. To go to our company, which was truly amazing. All that went along to get there was so many parts and pieces that we'll break down a little bit to give you guys a little bit of strategy for landing a whale. But the patience in itself is tremendous. So I just want to start with, okay, all of you are probably identifying, relating to something I just said in my example. So I first want us to think about our mindset. And I first want you to think, if somebody tells you you'll never get this, if somebody says there's no way, nobody's ever broken into this, oh, just you wait. Because like anything else, get the information, but people are going to change jobs. Things are going to happen. You're just chip away at tiny little parts and pieces, and you start embedding yourself in where you need to be. And all the tactics and strategies that Lisa and I go through on so many episodes, you pull a lot of this together and you can make this happen. Absolutely believe anybody listening to this can land a whale if you have the patience and you understand this is a long sail, not a short one.
Yeah. And that was a perfect example. You're right, Cindy. It definitely takes that mindset. And so how do you get there, right? Because a lot of times we want that instant gratification as sales reps. Of course, who doesn't? Everybody wants to walk in, win the docs over, win the hospitals over, get the sales, get the numbers on the board, hit your quota, exceed your quota, and move on. But if that was as easy as I just said it, sounds like it could be, then everybody would be doing our job, right? But there's a reason why our job and our industry is tough to break into. It's tough to be successful in, and it's tough to be successful year over year over year, especially like when you're competing with something that Cindy was talking about, which is 20 years of the same rep. And that's, I mean, that is a staunch rep in that job. You know, that's a tough one. But hey, things change. People move on. People retire. People decide one day they don't want to work in that industry anymore. So be ready for the change. Have the patience. Set your mindset up to not hear the no's, only hear the yeses. And I think another really important key strategic thing is to remember you are building a partnership with this whale. You are building the partnership, the loyalty, the trust with this key opinion leader. There is a reason why they worked with that one rep for 20 years, Cindy. Maybe a little bit was habit, but it probably was the fact that early on that rep did a good job of building trust, of building great relationships, that when things arose with issues with the product, they could pick up the phone, call the rep, and the rep would solve the problem immediately. Those are things that you have to do in order to land and keep that whale, to even start to begin to catch that whale. You have to be super strategic. It's like putting on the exact bait that you need to catch that big old fish or the whale. It's the same thing, right? You need to have in your tackle box that specific bait that only a key opinion leader or a whale is going to bite off on. And I think the biggest one is building that trust and loyalty. And that takes patience. That takes time.
That is so well said. So let's dive into that. How do you do that? So let's think about one thing. Every whale out there, and I mean this whether you're looking at one true individual as a key opinion leader, if you're looking at an entire hospital system, I want you to think of it like this. Every one of them has a team. They all have a team. They all work with multiple parts and pieces. For example, if your whale is a physician, you're going to have an assistant. You're going to have somebody in your office that does your scheduling. Then you're going to have a whole team of other people that work underneath you in different areas, scrub techs, nurses, other physicians, other partners. If you're a big hospital system, you're going to have committees. You're going to have people that are in all different areas, C-suite. Maybe you're an OR, maybe you're a distributor. So maybe it's supply chain. So it takes lots and lots of calls and lots of points of contact. But what you do is you start making some relationships, some contacts with some of these people, and then you start building each part of this team so that by the time you get to know the whale, you know what's important to them, what they need from you. Because like Lisa said, we're here to partner, but what's the point in partnering with a whale, individual, or a hospital system if we don't have something for them, right? What value do we bring to them? Why do we even want to partner with them? And when you know where we're good for them, then we can think about how they help us.
Well, you just made a really good point. So it made me think about just in general, you know, everybody has a ton of whales in their territory, and I'm thinking of one in particular. And you're right. They are 100% dependent on their staff in the OR, their staff on the floors, the value analysis committee. They're usually pretty tight with the purchasing and materials management people. Why? Because they're the key opinion leaders. They're the big doc in the entire hospital. They're constantly getting hit up with new products. So they have to know these people. So you need to make it your business to know them as well. It's like when you are taking care of an A-lister. What do people have to do with A-listers? Well, you got to get their special food and their special blanket and their water, and you got to know their people, and you got to know their favorite colors and their mood music and all the things, right? I mean, they're like
sounds fun to be an A-lister,
right? Yeah, they need a lot of things. And so the point of that is, so do key opinion leaders, so do whales. They expect you to be at a higher level with them. And it's not just in the OR, not just asking for more cases. It is the overarching, what all do you know? Who do you know? How do you make them feel? What have you done for them? All of these things are so important before you even begin your conversations with the key opinion leaders.
And I love that you said something that reminded me of something that happened years ago. But You're right. You're going to have to go in there. You're going to have to see them. You're going to have to be doing things for them. But do not think these are one and done activities
Oh, yeah,
because
no.
that will take you down the wrong path and there will be a never, right? That you will
Yeah.
never get that business. If you are somebody who says, well, I did that. I met the surgical tech. Oh, I've already been to the office. Yeah, I've already done that. I'm done. That's it. No, 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 no. A whale equals patience equals persistence. Okay. So what do we mean by this? This means you're going to contact the surgical rep 1, 2, 20, 200 times. It becomes a practice. It becomes a true partnership. And it's just events that you do over and over, and it's continual support. This is not a check the box, task oriented way to get a whale. To even land a whale, even get that close, it is multiple actions on your part, beginning with showing up and having them trust you to be consistent with who you are. Because again, this is a professional business relationship. So they have something to offer us as much as we have something to offer them. All these steps help us learn that. So I think that's something to really not one and done.
We're talking about all this, and it's crossing my mind that maybe some people are like, is it worth it? Is it worth it to have to work this hard to get one doc? The answer is yes. But why? Why is it worth it? Well, okay, first of all, the very obvious is the increase in sales because you're going to hopefully you garner their business. But there's also a domino effect. If you get that top doc on your products, guess what? So are his partners probably going to fall in line to the point at least of entertaining you and your product. And what I mean by that is entertaining using you. You still are going to have to prove yourself with them. They may not be the high key opinion leader volume, but there's still a fair amount of volume. And let's be honest, who doesn't want to hit their quota? Wouldn't it be nice to have a one and done? I mean, not everybody gets a one and done. And we can talk about some of the keeping of the whale in our second part of this 2-part series. But the answer is yes. Landing a whale is 1000% worth the effort, but it takes effort and it takes patience. And sometimes it takes years. I mean, I can tell you from experience, I know. And you get run down, you get burnt out, you want to give up. You're like, I'm never going to land these docs. They're never going to turn around. But you'd be surprised because things change. And I think, again, that patience, persistence, being strategic, being in the partnership with them and making their world your world pays off.
So if you're somebody that is driving in the car and you've asked that question, well, is it even worth it? Let me ask you this. Have you ever landed a whale? Because my thought is this, if you're asking that question, you haven't felt the rewards in so many different ways. Domino effect is one thing. Yes, not only more business, but you know what it does for you? It elevates you. You talk about leveling up when you've done all this work because nothing good comes easy. And when it feels so good. And I want you all to know this, that it is worth every effort because partnering with some amazing people has been it makes it all worth it. I have some amazing surgeons that I've been able to part with, hospital systems, and feeling this way is amazing. And I want everybody else to experience that. So know that you can do it, believe that you can do it, and approach it the right way. So in thinking about how we do this, we already talked a little bit about building champions of the team, right? We mentioned the OR. I think I want to mention something else. If it's a whale, I guarantee there's going to be some type of, whether it's a value analysis committee or some decision-making unit in there. So during all of these contacts that you're making, another action step I want you to think about is start to understand the process, know how things work is there a value analysis committee? Do they meet every week, every month? Who are the people on it? Because when I mentioned the story that I mentioned that took me 4 years, there were 8 different people in different sections that sat on different areas, which took me years to get to. Some you got to easily, some took many, many months and networking of many people to get you in front of different people. But first of all, you need to understand if you have a coworker or maybe like somebody in like a different division that does something different, or somebody that, a medical device for another company, or somebody who can truly lay out the truth, not somebody who's going to be a gatekeeper and tell you wrong. Some people try to do that, so don't be fooled, but just truly understand, how do you actually get a product in this hospital? How do you actually work with this physician? Then you know the steps. Now it's your turn in this decision making to know, okay, what am I going to present now to value analysis? How do I discuss this? Some of those things are data. Some of this is clinical results. Some of it is feature benefits. And the other thing is a lot of times it's just some of your testimonials. You're using this product somewhere else. What can you bring to tell them experience that you've experienced? So I think it's very important to understand the whale in which you are pursuing.
Yeah, that was perfect. And you're right. I mean, it's a lot. And so I was thinking about some of the pitfalls, not pitfalls, but things that you're going to run up against, right? Before we close this out, because I think it's really important for you guys to also have your expectations set with a whale if you don't already know this. So one of the biggest things, other than the fact that it, yes, is going to take time, it's going to take patience, it's going to take strategery, but you're also going to have some falls. You're going to have some stumbles. You're going to have hurdles. Those hurdles can look anything like you finally think that you got them and you do some cases and then the cases don't grow great. Right. And now all of a sudden he's like, why am I working with you? I could be using your competitor. I've had 20 years of using them and you're brand new. You don't know what you're doing. Millions of questions are going to come up. So the first thing you have to remember is don't get deterred easily. This is the long sell. This is the marathon. This isn't the sprint. Even though you finally, quote unquote, may have landed him, you really haven't yet, because this is going to take some time to build that trust. It's not a one and done even after you've done all the work. You have to continue to work. You have to continue to build that relationship up, that rapport up with your customer. So if you do have a couple of bad cases, okay, let's talk about it. Let's go through it. Let's maybe get another peer to chime in. Let's bring some resources in and try and figure out where maybe potentially it didn't go well. Do remember, when your big time docs, these big time whales are using your competitor, they are so used to your competitor products that they don't know your product yet. You have to be the expert on your products. And even if you have a bad case, it doesn't mean you aren't the expert. It just means you need to probably go back, figure out what went wrong, and maybe even bring in somebody else. There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to stay on top of it, because I will tell you this, if you let that deter you, you will lose that business. And I don't know about if getting it back will be even harder than it was to actually land them in the first place. So that is one, I think, of the biggest misconceptions that I think people get, is they're like, oh, I landed them. We're good to go. I'm in like Flynn. Everything is great now. But yet it's like, actually, now the race starts. Now the actual marathon starts. And now the expectations are set. And now it's up to you to actually make it happen over and over again and build that partnership. Landing the whale is just the beginning of it. And we're going to talk more about that in the next episode too.
Oh, I know, which is so exciting. And I love that you pointed out red flags, because you're right. We can believe we can do it. And you know what? I'm going to take one quick minute to expand a little bit on a quick vulnerable moment, because I think it's important when Lisa and I share our vulnerable stories. So one word of caution is do not put all your eggs in one basket. So if you're new in, distributor, or even in any new company, it's very, very easy to get comfortable with somebody who's really nice to you or somebody who lets you in. And so I was early on in my career and trying to advance in this was probably a mini whale, but I remember I had met somebody and I was so excited that I cold called and, oh my gosh, this person's going to help me. And this person had connections. So she would say, oh, well, I will talk to so-and-so, we'll schedule this. So I would always report back to her. Big mistake I did was not ask, tell me, who is this person you're connecting with? May I have their number too? Let me make sure, could we all get in on a call together? Because I was brand new and I thought, oh, I'm doing so well. She's got this. I have this great contact. Well, guess what? Her husband retires and she's early, I don't know, mid 40s, and says, I'm done work, I'm leaving. And literally in 2 weeks was gone. So I had lost all my contacts. So that set me back a couple months. So just remember, turn over all the stones as you go and be in contact for everything. Don't put all eggs in one basket would be one additional red flag. But I'm excited. I think that landing a whale is so fun and so long, and something that we could talk about for a very long time.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. So that was a great story, Cindy. And, that just brings to mind that you just really have to be checking every single box. So I think with that, especially talking about like wrapping everything up, let's give you guys a couple big takeaways. So number one, landing a whale is 1,000% worth it. I promise you, if you've landed a whale, that question was so good, Cindy, when you're like, have you landed one? Landing them is hard. It takes patience. It takes persistence. It takes trusting in yourself, a good mindset to know that you're going to hear a lot of no's before you get the yeses, but also believing in yourself and knowing that it's going to take a lot of different steps. You're going to need to know the entire team, and that's not just surgical. That's the hospital. That's the value analysis. That's the materials management. That's the nurse that runs his schedule. And it's going to take continuous care, continuous working with these people to show that big whale that you are committed to their business. You know, you need to know every step along the way, know everyone. Like Cindy said, don't leave one stone unturned. It's so important that you're doing all of those things. Have a couple of internal champions. Don't just depend on one person. Have a number of people lined up to support you. And, you know, make sure that you're doing everything you can to support that physician and show him or her that you are committed to them. And remember, they're like A-listers. You got to know their favorite color. You got to know what coffee they drink. You got to know who they love in the OR. You got to be able to in-service the OR staff and make sure that they are set up for success so that when you finally get those cases with that whale, they run so smoothly. Don't ever be transactional. This isn't, hey, I'm going to sell you this and you're going to give me that. This is a partnership, not a transaction.
Well said. So our call to action today will be this: bring your patience. So let's identify your whale. We have identified the secret is patience. And think about this. Believe that you can get this whale. And if you have identified and you believe it, then we want you to tune in to our next episode, which is what happens after you land the whale. Thanks for listening, everyone, and go out there and catch your whale.